Okay, so today we're going to work some more with the Algebra 5.0 standard, and we in particular are going to work on solving multi-step problems. We're not going to work with word problems today, we'll do that another day. And the kinds of multi-step problems we're going to work on are linear equations in one variable. We're not going to worry about providing justification for each step just yet, but we are going to make sure that we're following the properties, number properties. So our objective today is to solve two-step equations. No, it's not. It's to solve multi-step equations. And an example of the type of equation you might be working on would be something that looks like this. 5 equals 10 times x plus 1. You'll see that there's just one variable and no more than one. And we will have to do several steps to be able to find out what x equals to keep this equation balanced. So I'm going to show you the first one, how it looks when you solve a multi-step equation. But when I do, notice that I'll be following these three steps. The first step I will do is I will distribute. And when I mean distribute, that will be when I'm multiplying a number by items that are inside the parentheses. The next step I'm going to do is I'm going to either add or subtract. And I'll show you what that looks like, why it's one or the other. And then the third step is then I'll multiply or divide. And each time I'm trying to get an equation where I am isolating the variable x to find out what x equals. So the first step is to distribute. In order to distribute, I need to think about multiplying 3 times everything inside the parentheses. So I'm going to first multiply 3 times x, and then I'll multiply 3 times 1. I'm distributing the multiplication of 3 inside the parentheses. So when I do 3 times x, I will get 3x. When I do 3 times negative 1, I get minus 3, and then I get equals 0. Alright, so that was the first step. I distributed the multiplication of 3. Now the next step is I need to add and subtract. Add or subtract. Now what I mean here is when I see 3x minus 3 equals 0, I have minus 3 right here. And in order to do the opposite operation, I'm going to have to add 3 so I can get this 3 to the other side. So what I'll do is I'll add 3. So what I'm doing in this case is I'm adding, I'm not subtracting 3 to get to, oops, sorry. And I'm going to add 3 here. So what I do to one side, I must do the other side. So I'm adding 3 on this side, adding 3 on this side. Alright, so that will get me 3x. These two cancel out, equals, and 3 plus 0 is 3. Okay, so now I have 3x equals 3. So the next step I need to do is either multiply or divide. So in order to isolate this x, I'm going to need to divide by 3 by both sides. So I'm going to divide, in this case I'm dividing by 3. These will cancel out, which will leave me x finally all by itself. And over here, when I do 3 divided by 3, I get 1. So now I know my answer is 1. And just to double check, I'm going to go ahead with a different color here, and I'm going to substitute 1 in for x in this original equation over here. But let's do green. So I'll have 3, I'm going back to my original equation, times x is now 1, so I'll put 1 minus 1 equals 0. And let's see if that works. 3 times 1 minus 1 is 0. And then 3 times 0 does equal 0. And since I have 0 equals 0, that means this equation checks out. It is a true statement. And that's what I have to do, is make sure I still have a true statement. Okay, so you watched me do one. Now I would like for you to do one with me. And I have the steps here, again, to remind us the order that I'd like for you to do these steps. So this equation says 6 equals 2 times the quantity x minus 3. Now step number 1 says to distribute. So I would like for you as a class to go ahead and distribute the multiplication of the 2, where's my red, by everything inside the parentheses. So multiply 2 times x and 2 times 3. Okay, so you should have 6 equals 2x minus 6. If you distributed the 2, the multiplication of 2 by everything inside, you'll end up with 2x minus 6. Alright, so that was step 1. Now step 2 is either add or subtract. So right here I have minus 6. So that means I have to do the opposite operation to get this to the other side. So I need to add 6. So in this case again, I'm going to actually be adding to both sides. So I'm going to add 6 on this side, add 6 on this side. And when I find out what I have is I'll see that these two cancel each other out, and I'll end up with 12 equals 2x. Alright, so now we need to either multiply or divide. I need to think about isolating the x. So let's think about what we need to do to get x by itself and to get that 2, or to undo the multiplication of this 2. We will have to divide 2 by both sides. So I'll end up with x equals 6. Oops, I didn't write this in. If I divide both sides by 2, I would end up with this canceling out, which gets me x. Finally, x is isolated, and 12 divided by 2 is 6. Okay, so check your partner, make sure you all have x equals 6, and then I would like for you to very quickly substitute 6 in for x in your original equation, and make sure that indeed you get a true statement. Alright, so now you watched me do one, we worked on one together. I'd like for you to work with a partner on this one, but I'm going to give you a quick little warning on this one. We do have a fraction here, 1/2 times x plus 4, the quantity x plus 4 equals 2. You're just going to do the same thing. You're going to think of this as one whole number, which is 1/2. When you distribute, you just have to distribute the 1/2 times x and the 1/2 times 4, and very carefully write out your answers. It's helpful to use the parentheses. For instance, if you're going to write 1/2 times x, do times x in parentheses, and do the same thing with the 4. So I got you started. I want you and your partner to finish it. You're going to finish distributing the multiplication of 1/2, and then decide whether you need to add or subtract for the next step, and then decide whether you need to multiply or divide for the final step. Okay, so you and your partner have been working together, so I'm going to finish this up so you can check your work. 1/2 times 4 is what you should have next, equals 2. This will get us 1/2 x plus 1/2 times 4 is 2, equals 2. And now I need to subtract this 2 to the other side, or subtract it from both sides. So actually we distributed, we're going to subtract. So if I take 2 away from each side, what I will end up with is 1/2 x, these cancel out, equals, oh, and those cancel out, so I'm going to get 0. So 1/2 x equals 0. Now I have to decide, am I multiplying or dividing in order to undo this 1/2 on this side. I'm going to end up multiplying a 2. So I'll multiply 2 and multiply 2 from both sides. This will end up canceling out and leaving me x. This will end up being 0. X is your final solution, and I saw that all of you checked your final solution to make sure that it actually makes this equation true. Alright, so here are 4 more problems for you to practice. I'd like for you can work with your partner if you need some assistance. I'm going to be walking around and making sure that everyone understands how to do all these problems.